Hello! If you're watching us, you probably love great stories. But today there's no better story than one that's based on real events. Today, we'll tell you about the fate of one of the greatest boxers of our time, which the filmmakers turned into a spectacular biopic. The story begins with Iron Mike sitting alone in the dock, but we'll get to that. For now, let's go back to his childhood. As a boy, Tyson used to hang around with bad guys. They encouraged him to carry out armed attacks and steal. The atmosphere at home was no joy either. The children hardly saw their mother, and Mike's only refuge was a cage with all of his beloved pigeons. But soon, he was deprived of this joy as well. The boy is sent to a special school for juvenile delinquents in New York State. A couple of years pass. Teddy Atlas, a young coach, asks his mentor, the legendary Cus D'Amato, to watch one boxer fight at the Catskill City Club. The elderly coach is warned that the fighter is a troubled teenager. He's been arrested over 40 times. Training room. Cus watches young Tyson sparring with an experienced boxer. He's impressed by the athlete's strength. Even though the boy has absolutely no style, Cus decides to ignore the young man's complicated past and take him under his tutelage immediately.
That's your new home, Mike.
Mike starts living in the house with Cus and his common-law wife, Camille. Every day the kid wakes up before dawn, jogs, and then goes to train at the boxing club. In the evening, his mentor takes him through bouts of famous boxers, like Rocky Marciano and Joe Louis, and gives him all the worldly and technical knowledge he's accumulated over the years. A few months go by and suddenly Mike receives shocking news. His mother has died. Tyson goes to his hometown of Brooklyn for the funeral, but doesn't stay there long. He goes back to Catskill, moves his pigeons there, and continues to train under the close supervision of Cus. He prepares the boy to become a champion and win the first Junior Olympics of his life. And for good luck, he gives him a pendant that was once given to him by Muhammad Ali himself. 1982. The day of the first competition is upon us. In the locker room before the fight, Mike has a panic attack. He's sure he'll lose in the first round. But Coach Teddy reminds him to turn his fear into fire, and that there's no one like him at the Olympics. This encourages Tyson, and the dynamic kid enters the ring fully prepared. Teddy immediately calls Cus and tells him that Mike managed to knock his opponent out in a record 8 seconds. When the boxer arrives home with an Olympic medal, his mentor unexpectedly asks him to become his and Camille's adopted son. Mike happily agrees and can't believe his luck. Soon Cus introduces his newly adopted son to 2 successful managers, Bill Clayton and Jimmy Jacobs. The old man promises that they'll become the boxer's best friends and keep him out of trouble. Tyson, however, is looking for it so actively that they can't keep track of everything. For example, one day he goes out to drive around the city at night with a friend from the neighborhood. The boxer excitedly talks about his success, but his friend just laughs it off. He's convinced that a bunch of white managers just want to rip Tyson off, and their promises are nothing. Mike gets out of the car, chases a couple of girls, and when they disappear around the corner, runs into a small shop and causes real mayhem. The next day, Mike doesn't show up for practice. Teddy gives Cus a scolding. He assures him that Tyson has a serious discipline problem and demands that he's not treated any differently than any other sportsman. However, Cus is convinced he knows better how to train a true champion and doesn't listen to Teddy's advice. But then comes the news that eventually infuriates the young coach. Mike tried to seduce his little sister. He waits for Tyson outside his house and forbids him to come close to his family. Mike chuckles back and says threats won't scare him. Then Teddy fires a shot into the trees, close to Tyson's ear. Cus hears about this, and the next morning the guy gets fired. Under his new coach Kevin Rooney's guidance, Mike is winning fight after fight. Journalists now hunt for interviews after each win, and newspapers closely follow his success. Meanwhile, Cus's health begins to deteriorate dramatically. One day, he coughs so badly that he doesn't even make it to the end of the fight and ends up in the hospital. Mike arrives at the clinic right after the fight and sees his foster father dying. After the death of his mentor, Mike seems to lose all interest in training and life in general for a while. He even lets his pigeons free, which he used to hold so dear. When Jimmy's manager tries to watch other people's fights with Tyson, he doesn't even pay attention to the screen and cries for missing his friend and foster father, Cus. Jimmy calms him down by letting him know that he's ready to replace Mike's favorite mentor. The year is 1986. Tyson fights a powerful opponent, Trevor Berbick. Mike punches his opponent with killer force and knocks him down twice, but he still manages to get up. The third knockdown is Berbick's last. He gets on his feet, staggers badly, and the ref finally stops the fight. At the age of 20, Mike becomes the youngest heavyweight champion ever. Speaking on television, the champion dedicates his triumph to his mentor, Cuz. Mike's personality is becoming increasingly unbearable. Now the guy refuses to watch other people's fights at all, demands special food, and is rude to all members of his team, except for Jimmy, with whom he shares the news that he met the most beautiful and intelligent girl of his life, a certain Robin. When he hears that they first met on television, the mentor can't stop laughing for a long time. Tyson is determined to get his way, so that same night he gets Robin Givens' number and calls her at home. She's flattered that such a famous athlete is interested in her and agrees to meet him. When the boxer steps into the ring against Tony Tucker, Robin and her mother are already sitting in the front row, watching Iron Mike lovingly. During the fight, his opponent manages to do the unbelievable. He catches Tyson's chin with an uppercut in the first round. Mike is in full defense, and the boxer does much worse than he normally does. During the break, Kevin tells his mentee that Robin will only love him as a champion, which makes Mike furious. For many rounds in a row, he advances on his opponent, and on the 10th round, he finally gets the unquestionable victory and becomes the undisputed heavyweight champion. After some time, Mike marries Robin. While his wife is chatting enthusiastically with reporters outside the registry office, he calls his adopted mother Camille and tells her the good news. She suddenly starts crying. Mike says that he's sorry that they kept the wedding a secret, as Robin is 3 months pregnant. But soon it turns out that the reason for Camille's tears is something else. Jimmy died of leukemia. Mike goes to California to attend the funeral of his second mentor. There, he's greeted by another famous promoter, Don King. He starts asking Tyson provocative questions, such as whether he trusts his manager Bill Clayton. King offers the boxer 5 easy fights for $5 million each, and Tyson says he'll think about it. At the cemetery, Bill asks Mike what King wanted from him. The boxer tells him about the proposal that he made, but he doesn't mention that he promised to think about it. After a few moments, he runs away and hides behind a tombstone. When Kevin approaches him, Tyson confesses that he's tired of so much grief. In addition, the guy feels like the money is changing his relationship with people for the worse.
I can't trust nobody.
A story about Mike and Robin, who now live in a $6 million mansion, is aired on TV. In it, the boxer's wife tells how Mike's manager, Bill, tried to sabotage their wedding and rob their family. Don King backs up these accusations in a public statement and soon signs a contract with Mike. Behind his back, the shrewd promoter gossips that Robin isn't 5 months pregnant at all, and that her modeling career is a complete sham. An important fight is approaching. Tyson versus Spinks Michael, for some reason, takes his time getting ready and hasn't been at the gym for weeks. One day he does come to the club, reluctantly sparring and quickly leaves the ring. King starts yelling at the boxer, accusing him of being completely unprepared for the fight. At this point, Tyson's friend asks the trainer to be gentle because Robin has just had a miscarriage. Kevin instead says aloud that Miss Tyson's pregnancy was a sham and everyone knows it. Michael is furious and silently returns to the ring. He invites local athletes to fight, offering them to knock him out in 10 seconds. When his opponents fail to do so, the boxer beats him half to death one by one. 1988, Tyson enters the ring against the technical boxer Spinks, who has a good chance of winning against the undefeated champion. Before the fight, Robin hands King some documents, and a few minutes later they're handed to Billy. From reading them, the manager learns that he's being fired. The fight begins and Tyson immediately launches a powerful attack. His opponent holds on for a while but gradually loses coordination. Spinks falls to his knees, manages to get up, but soon falls back again and stays there, knocked out. Mike and Robin are being interviewed by a major television station at their home. At first, all is going well, but then the journalist asks Miss Tyson what her life has become like since Tyson's success. She suddenly begins to say that her whole life is a pure hell because of her husband's manic depressive psychosis. She supposedly loves him from the soft side of his character, but she can't imagine their future unless Mike gets psychological help. A couple of hours later, the cops arrive at Tyson's mansion and already from the street hear the boxer screaming. Robin runs out of the house with her mother and complains that the officers took too long. She says Mike could have killed them. the boxer himself appears at the doorstep, cursing at his wife, mother-in-law, and the police officers, then gets into his car and drives away.
You're just gonna let him go?
On television, Robin declares that her husband has threatened to kill her, has beaten her, and has been drinking constantly, and now she has no choice but to file for a divorce. Tyson watches the broadcast in King's office while he makes arrangements for the upcoming fight with Buster Douglas. From the conversation, it becomes clear that Kevin was fired by the promoter. 1990. Tyson arrives in Tokyo for a fight. The stakes are 40-1, and everyone is sure Iron Mike will win. On the eve of the fight, the boxer drinks and has fun with an unknown woman in a hotel room. From the start of the fight, it's noticeable that he's in bad shape. The boxer constantly tries for punches, misses, and makes mistakes. At the end of the 8th round, Tyson manages to knock down Douglas nonetheless. The latter still manages to get up. King is outraged and yells that the referee started counting too late and that Mike's opponent was down for at least 15 seconds. Tyson's eye is swollen, and the first aid kit doesn't even contain any medication or first aid. The team just didn't consider the possibility that he might need it. Mike misses more and more with every round, and by the start of the 10th round is barely on his feet. He tries to attack but gets hit in the face, loses coordination, and falls down. He doesn't get up in time. After his defeat, Mike briefly returns to Catskill to see Camille and visit the local boxing club. Soon, he's off to Indianapolis for the Miss Black America beauty pageant. The appearance of the famous boxer causes a sensation among the contestants of the show. They invite him to the stage, and there Mike meets one of the models, Desiree Washington. In the evening, the boxer calls the woman's apartment to invite her to a party. She hesitates at first, citing the late hour, and offers to meet the next day. Tyson replies that he'll be leaving tomorrow. Then Desiree goes downstairs and gets into Mike's limo. They kiss, and he mentions that he'll need to stop back by his hotel on the way to pick up his bodyguard. When Tyson and Desiree arrive at the hotel, the boxer takes her to his room. He says that they'll come in for just a second, but closes the door behind them. What actually happened next is not known, but soon Desiree accuses Tyson of rape. He's jailed for 6 years, and right after his early release from prison, he announces that he'll be resuming his career. By the way, did you know why exactly Iron Mike was so reverent about pigeons? There's actually a pretty tragic story behind it. Write your thoughts in the comments below, and let's see who the real experts are. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so there's always something to watch with a bucket of popcorn.